Hi, and thanks for joining me. I'm Gregory, and this is 1 in 20 D&D. So, tonight I have 4 more points for DMs to level up your game. I'm going to try to make this quick, simple, sweet, and to the point. So, number 1, know your players' characters. Now, what I mean by that, if you're playing a single one-shot game, it's real simple. You got to know the players' character names, hit points, armor class, and probably if you're playing 5th edition, you want to have their passive perception. Just having that quickly as a reference is really going to help you speed things along through the game. Now, if you're playing a more advanced, more in-depth, I should say, overarching long-term campaign, or perhaps one of the modules, Out of the Abyss, or one of the pre-made modules from Wizard of the Coast, you might want to have more information. You might want to have some of the background information. You might want to have some of the items and equipment the characters have. You probably want to have a copy of their character sheet. That's my recommendation. Just have a hard copy of each character's character sheet. That way you can make your own little notes. You can refer to it on the fly when you need it. Now, obviously, you may have a preference for just like a quick little 3x5 card that's just got, again, the pertinent information you want to have at hand. Now, the reason I think in a longer campaign it's more important to really have an understanding of each of the characters that the players are playing is that you want to bring elements. You want to be able to bring elements from each character in your game into the game. So whether it's an NPC from their past, or whether it's a goal that they hope to achieve in their character's lifetime, bringing that into your story is really going to endear the players to your game. It's really going to give them that moment of excitement of like, wow, this is really my game. So a quick example, real simple, would be for instance, maybe you have a character who's playing someone with the sage background, and they have a goal that they're going to visit every great library on the continent that they're on. So that's a real simple thing to tie in and to have in the back of your mind, but also in your notes, that whenever they enter a big enough city, there's a library, and you make a point of describing where the library is, or maybe you make a point of directing the player's attention to the library. So that's a really simple, quick example of why knowing the characters that your players are playing is so important. So, number 1, know your players' characters. Number 2, listen more, talk less. This is a big one for me, and honestly, most of the things that I'm sharing with you guys, whether it's for a DM or for a player, this stuff is just as much to help me as it is to hopefully help some of you guys out there, guys and gals. So listen more, talk less. Now, I think this really comes into play during combat, and obviously when you're describing a room, or if you're doing a module, if you're reading the prepared text, there's certain times when you obviously you're going to be talking, and you probably as the DM will do a fair amount of the talking. However, when you're role-playing, when you're in combat, it's a perfect opportunity to kind of sit back and just pay attention. Listen to the players speaking between themselves, hopefully in character, but even if they're out of character, listen to what they're saying back and forth, because it will key you in to how to develop the scene, the combat, the adventure. So, that's number 2, listen more, talk less. Number 3 tonight, if you're running a module, be flexible. Now, that is sort of a broad statement, I suppose. What I'm trying to say is that modules can feel fixed and sort of somewhat a little rigid, or like you might feel if you're running a module that you have to keep the party on track all the time. That's not necessarily true. The party can maybe do little side things that get them seemingly off track of what the overarching story of the module is. However, you can find ways, if you're flexible and creative, you can find ways to bring them back into the line of where the module is supposed to be taking them. So if you're flexible, it'll be a lot more fun for the characters. They won't feel like you're leading them by the nose as you're playing this adventure. So that's number 3. If you're running a module, be flexible. And number 4, on the opposite hand, if you're running a homebrew, which is a campaign that you've designed, you've created the world or just the actual adventure, then have options. What I mean by that is, in your notes, you want to have some quick references. And the 3 things I recommend to have for options or for references are names for NPCs, and you may actually want to flesh out some of those NPCs. Perhaps there's some evil wizard who's really, really important and may become a recurring villain. So you might want to have a little more information about him. Maybe there's a king that they're supposed to be helping out for that runs the kingdom. You might want to have a little more information for that type of a NPC. But just having names that you can draw from in the moment's notice, it's going to help, because then you're not stumbling for a name when the players say, well, what's the innkeeper's name? Or what's the name of the blacksmith? What's that guard's name? If you have it handy, you can just check it off, mark it off, and you don't have everyone named Bob. So, the other 2 things, I think there's 3 things I said will help you with options. So 1 is NPCs and NPC names. 2 is locations, so that if your players decide they want to go left when you thought they were going to go right, now you can have something at the ready that say, oh, okay, well, let them go here, do this, and then they can eventually come back to maybe the main arc of your story. And those locations can be simple and maybe just basic. You have a quick idea. They're in a big city. Maybe you have a warehouse where they're investigating and they get jumped. And they get ambushed. If there's been lots and lots and lots of role playing and very little action, and maybe you want to throw in a little combat, boom, you have a warehouse with something that they need to find, but there's also some obstacle or some villain that they have to defeat in order to get it. And maybe there's a monastery or some sewers or something. Just a couple little places. Now, it doesn't have to be bad stuff either. It can be just interesting things. Going back to the other example, maybe you describe the library. Maybe you have a small map of the library, who works there, and so forth. The main head librarian and that kind of thing. So have some locations kind of at the ready, or thought out a little bit before your actual game. The third one is some, let's call them bits of information. Maybe they're rumors, maybe they're story threads, maybe they're little side quests that the players might get involved in when the time comes. If they're sitting in the bar and they're chit-chatting and they seem to have kind of strayed off onto some tangent, and you want to kind of bring them back in line with your bigger picture, maybe you slip them some rumors while they're sitting at a table in the bar, or sitting up at the bar drinking. And having those little notes ahead of time will really make it easy on the fly and in the moment to just bring that into your game quickly and seemingly effortlessly, at least from the player's perspective. So, just a subtext for point number 4, again, NPCs and NPC names, locations, and rumors or bits of background information, side quests, and so forth. So, 4 points for 4 points for DMs to level up their game. Point number 1, know your players' characters. Point number 2, listen more and talk less. Point number 3, if you're running a module, be flexible. Point number 4, if you're running a homebrew, make sure you have options. So those are 4 more points for DMs to level up. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you find at least some of this helpful, and I appreciate you stopping by. Please like, subscribe, and send comments if you want to make suggestions. I'm open to it, and I'm happy to hear from you guys all the time. Thanks for coming in. I hope I get to see you at the table someday, whether it's a virtual table or an actual table. And as always, of course, keep rolling 20s.